reason, I would like to invite the next hour speaker, which should focus your attention to the trade-based money laundering and obstacle to the trade facilitation. The next speaker is Dr. Nandika Sanath Kumanayake, who is an Assistant Superintendent of Sri Lanka Customs. He was awarded with the WCO scholarship to follow Master of the Public Finance degree in Customs Administration at National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, Tokyo, in Japan. Based on performances at the MPF GRIPS scholarship was offered to continue study here. Then he completed Master of Arts in Public Economics and PhD in Development Economics. He has published several papers in international journals. Nandika, the floor is yours. And remember, after 13 minutes, I tell you that you have 2 minutes more.
Okay.
Let's go.
Right. Thank you, Professor Is. I should thank for INCU and Customs Committee of Azerbaijan in organizing this such a good conference, and I also indebted to my Sri Lanka Customs for giving an opportunity to participate this inaugural conference. Okay, my topic is trade-based money laundering and obstacle to trade facilitation. This is the contents of my presentation. So, how big is the problem? We cannot directly calculate money laundering because everything is hidden. We can do only the estimation. According to several estimations, it is 2% to 5% of world GDP, and another study says it would be 5% to 6% of world GDP, and Walker estimate it as US dollars 2.8 trillion. This is the definition of money laundering. How do they earn illegal money? Doing drug trafficking, crimes, terrorism, armed trafficking, blackmailing, tax evading, etc. This is the important thing, that what are the consequences of money laundering? It impacts on economy in several ways. Kirks calculate that each 10% rise in money laundering is associated with the 0.1% reduction in annual growth rate, because it makes policy mistakes, volatility in exchange and interest rates, threat of monetary instability, effects on tax collection and public expenditure allocation, and misallocation of resources. There are some impacts on financial sector also, because it corrupts institutes and employees, and it damages customer trust also. Impacts on external sector, it impairs international trade and capital flow, it drains scarce resources, it imports less important luxury items to the country. And there are some impacts on society also, because of criminal activities, and it facilitates corruption and crime. Therefore, very recently, internationally organized to combat the money laundering, and internationally organized the Financial Action Task Force in 1989. It recommends, there are 40 recommendations and another 9 recommendations after the terrorism. And there are some organizations gathered by, organized in regionally, like Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, Select Committee of Council of Europe, and Egmont Group. That is a special group gathered with 40 FIUs, financial intelligence units. And there are some local, country-wise measures has been taken. Some countries implemented new laws and new enforcing agencies. The motivation. Lenders vastly misused financial allocation. Lenders vastly misused financial liberalization policies advocated by IMF. We have so many examples. Therefore, anti-money laundering measures or regulations were enforced on financial institutes to control money laundering. Water always finds its way. Criminals switch from the money controlling banking sector to other sectors. Trade sector is subjected to high risk and vulnerable for misusing for trade-based money laundering. This is done by the Financial Action Task Force. One of the study of Financial Action Task Force says the trade sector is with high risk and vulnerable. And another study says launderers move to trade sector and misuse trade facilitation policies to trade-based money laundering. There's an example that simplified trade procedures in free trade centers has been misused by money launderers already. So there's a problem how to combat trade-based money laundering without obstructing trade facilitation. The purpose of this study is twofold. This study surveys existing literature, first to understand emerging threats created by trade-based money laundering on trade. Secondly, this study finds policies to combat trade-based money laundering without obstructing trade facilitation. Before understanding the money laundering mechanism, it is very important to understand the process of money laundering. It has, in the classical model, there are 3 stages in money laundering, like placement, layering, and integration. But Coningswell introduced alternative 4-stage process. That is placement, layering, and he divided integration part into justification and investment. In placement, money launderers usually infiltrate their criminal proceeds into financial system. In the layering sector, they further distance their illegal money from illegal origin. The justification means they give apparent legal origin to their criminal proceeds. After the justification, they have already laundered their money, and the money is ready to be used as a part of real financial system and to invest in to get more benefits. This is the definition of trade-based money laundering. It says the process of disguising the proceed of crime and moving value through the use of trade transaction in an attempt to legitimate their illicit origins. So there are several methods used in trade-based money laundering. Actually, as I mentioned earlier, that the trade-based money laundering takes place at the justification stage in money laundering process. Money laundering methods are like multiple invoicing, over and under shipment, false description of goods, and over and under invoicing. When you move to over and under invoicing, that is the oldest and common method used in money laundering. Over invoiced exports and under invoiced imports usually moved money into the country, and under invoiced exports and over invoiced exports move money out of the country. This is the example of under invoicing mechanism. I will skip it because of the time. There are several quantitative studies on trade-based money laundering. One of the important study was done by Stanovic in 2009. He introduced 3 basic methods to calculate amount of trade-based money laundering. The first one is comparison of average country price with the world average price. If it is high, they said overvalued. If it is low than that average price, it is undervalued. There are several comments on this method, and it says that disregard country heterogeneity. The second method is 50% above the average country import price or 50% lower the average country export price. They consider that if it is above, that is overvalued. If it is below the 50%, it is undervalued.
Nandika, you have 2 minutes more. Only.
Okay. There are another one is interquartile range price analysis. And I will move to the other one. Another method is gravity model. It is used by the Fawada, and he found that trade volume strongly correlated with trade-based money laundering. So, with the expansion of trade volume, the trade-based money volume will be increased also. And another study, this is the same study of also finds that trade-based money laundering is high in countries with strong anti-money laundering measures. That means launderers move to trade-based management when other parts are controlled. So I will move to the combating trade-based money laundering. The weaknesses of AML measures are relatively poor knowledge of staff, enforcement authorities on trade-based money laundering, and the other one is sharing of knowledge and information among local and foreign authorities is very rare. So, alternatively, they say that the data analysis is the best tool to find the amount of trade or find or mitigate the risk associated with trade-based money laundering. So I conclude that the money laundering can be increased with the trade facilitation measures which increase the trade volume, and we recommend that use develop mathematical tools to analyze trade data to detect anomalies, and to analyze frequently to observe the trends, and share knowledge and information with local and foreign authorities to combat money laundering. Thank you.